Estate agency gamekeeper turned poacher, you've gone from MD of Humberts now to the boss man of ActivePipe. What have you learnt about UK estate agency from both sides of the fence? Talk to me.
I think it's been fascinating to be the other side of the desk, because what I have been able to see in my short time with ActivePipe is that I visit a lot of estate agents, and you see the good and the bad. You see what's great about our industry. You also see the bad parts, and I do relate it back to my time at running Humberts. And you look at all of the knowledge that I could have gained if I had been able to see what I see now.
Because you're almost taking a step back and looking at the industry as a whole.
Yeah, and through my I had a period of some consultancy between Humberts and ActivePipe, and also some of my non-exec work. I get to really get under the skin of what makes an estate agency business work.
Okay, let's good or bad? Which one do you want to do first?
Good.
Right, what good have you, by being on both sides of the fence, what have you seen good about the UK estate agency industry with both sets of eyes?
I think I've been surprised about how many passionate business owners there are out there who are genuinely trying to run not just profitable businesses, and I think we always talk too much financially, but they actually genuinely want to do well for the people that work for them, and they're creating something for their community.
Okay.
Some people can be a bit cynical about, estate agents and community, they're just after the cash, but actually,
no, I think you're right.
I think the best agents, they're part of the community, and they're adding something back.
What else have you seen that's good?
So if you've got the talented business owners, what's also great is some of the innovative ideas that are coming out from some of the agents, and how they use either new tech or ideas to drive their business.
Talking of prop tech, apart from your own ActivePipe, which we'll assume that you love to bits, what is your favourite bits of prop tech that you've seen around? You think that's good?
Well, I'm still a huge fan of Yomdal. I think they're a great business.
Andy and Tim were there a couple of weeks ago on this sofa.
I think actually one of those that I really like is the Spectre business for canvassing and prospecting. Really, I think Heather's done a great job with that business.
Yes.
I've got a lot of time, and if I was an agent, I'd be using them.
Yep.
And I think that's the point, really, Chris. There are some really good suppliers that can fit into that customer journey, from the start of the relationship that an agent has with a customer all the way through and beyond the completion, but keeping hold of that relationship through the years.
Excellent. Anything else that's good?
Well, I love agency, and I think that's why.
But you started at the bottom, didn't you?
I did.
You really have gone through the ranks.
Junior negotiator in Aylesbury, and that's where I started. So I've done everything in every job in agency, and that's why I love it. I think it's a great industry to be part of, but I also know what's good, and good is. The things that I've seen recently also involve where agents are being proactive, where they're not.
Because the market's toughening at the moment. What are the good ones doing to make sure that they're not losing out?
Well, I think they're not using the dreaded B word as an excuse.
Just an excuse, isn't it?
Yeah. There's always a reason why things aren't great, and why should you can't. I'm a strong believer.
It's a lack of discipline.
You worry about what you can influence. What the hell can agents do about Brexit?
They can't. But people still want to sell houses. People want to buy houses. Okay, the market's dropped. You can't control the market. People don't want a friend. No. They want someone to tell them what they need to do, and so they can move from one chapter of their life to another.
And if you walk into somebody's living room and you're down about the industry, what do you think that conveys?
It's going to come across in your body language, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you mentioned about the likes of your purple bricks and your online boys, and don't use them swines. That's kind of nice moving into what's bad about the industry. What would you change about it? What have you seen? You think, wish they didn't do that.
Well, I'm hoping regulation helps, because I think there's a lot of bad practices out there. I think there's a lot of poorly motivated and poorly trained front of house staff, and And whether that's been a consequence of the 2008 market that we had, it is certainly part of that. I think it's also a lot of agents taking their eye off the ball. They're scared. They're thinking that the property market's in a difficult space, and therefore they're cutting costs by employing poorer staff or not paying them enough. And I think there should be a real piece around how you incentivise negotiators to do more.
Interestingly, we had a conversation in a previous video, and you talked about this thinking long term versus short term. Is there a link between the ones that are doing well and their attitude to that long versus short term?
Well, I think there's a clear structure where they have the next breed of business owners within their teams.
Yes.
And I think of a number of companies that I'm dealing with at the moment, and there's a real energy within not just the owner of the business, but the next rung down. Those guys that the business owner will know he's either going to sell shares to those guys, or they're going to go off and set up on their own at some point. But the value he gets from having them in his business for 5 to 10 years is immense.
What do you think the best way is to do that? Is to sell shares or let them go? Or does it depend on the person?
I think it does depend on the person. I think there's a lot of different ways of paying at the moment. There's the self-employed route that seems to be popular at the moment, this sort of consultant idea of paying little basic and paying more commission. That works in certain scenarios. It certainly reduces your cost base down as a business owner. But I think the important part that I would say is that you need to get somebody to be invested in their future in your business. And that could well be shares or sharing a success of a business by having some sort of profit share scheme.
Surely it's better to have 70% of something big than 100% of something small.
Yeah.
And I think by giving 20-30% of your equity away, the amount of times I've heard agents who've said, well, I was about to give you some shares. Well, you should have done it before you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other point with that, Chris, is you're right about it. If you look at how much you pay those negotiators up to assistant managers, typically the commission you pay them is, if it's 10% of their salary, it's probably somewhere between 10 to 12% tops. Now, that's really not going to float that negotiator's boat too much,
especially if they're millennials, because money's not, it's more experiences and making a difference and going on spa days.
Yeah. Now, the great companies, and you mentioned I used to work for Hamptons, so you look at Hamptons now, they still run incentive schemes, they run ski trips, they run things that make their negotiators work harder to make sure they're on that flight to go and do a bit of skiing and more drinking than skiing. And that's what you need to do as a business owner.
Thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
It's not the old days like in the 80s when we were agents, where it's just salary, commission, car.
Yeah.
You've got to think outside the box.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Good stuff. Finally, what do you think about these hubs and setting up of hubs? Because you were the MD of Humberts when Natural Retreats took you over.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on those?
Well,
is that good or a bad thing?
Well, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a way of a new modern approach for a lot of agents, and what it can do is it's a structure that can work.
But didn't you?
Providing,
but let's be frank, though, they did lose an awful lot of members of staff, or I don't know if they were pushed or walked, or I don't know.
Well, I think what they've focused on is making sure they've got the right staff for the type of jobs that they want them to be doing right now.
Okay.
And the critical part that their challenge with the hub model is to make sure that they're still front of mind to their customers of tomorrow.
So they've closed the offices. Do they still have a hub in the town, but in an industrial unit, or have
they have fewer? So they have fewer hubs covering bigger areas.
I'm with you.
So in order to make that work, you've got to be spot on with your digital presence and your marketing generally.
Do you think they could do better at that?
Well, I think they've just launched their new website, which looks fantastic. They've just launched Humberts Living, which I think is a great initiative.
What's that?
Which is where they're providing extra services for customers to maintaining properties, to update properties, and really the property management element, but bringing it to the sales market.
I'm with you.
And I think that's the way of modernising in the way that Natural Retreats see running that business for the future.
Only time will tell.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
That's good.